It all began on an ordinary evening, the kind where the quiet suburban streets hummed with faint street lamp buzz and the distant rustle of leaves. Daniel, a 35-year-old accountant, had just finished another late shift. He often spent his evenings watching Netflix, recently hooked on the global phenomenon Squid Game. The show's eerie games and chilling imagery had seeped into his mind, but nothing could have prepared him for what was about to happen. Under the dim glow of a flickering street lamp, Daniel saw something that made him stop in his tracks. A figure stood motionless, cloaked in shadow, wearing a Squid Game worker's mask, a triangle, stark and empty. The figure's posture was unnervingly still, like a statue, yet it radiated an unshakable presence. Daniel's lips curled into a nervous chuckle. A prank, perhaps? Some overzealous fan. He quickened his pace, keeping his head down as he walked past. He dared a glance over his shoulder. The figure hadn't moved. Relief swept over him as he reached the safety of his front door. But the next day, it happened again, and again. The masked figure became a fixture in his life. It stood across the street as he grabbed his morning coffee. It lingered at the park while he jogged, silent, watching, always watching. At first, Daniel tried to rationalize it. A coincidence, surely. Maybe someone was playing an elaborate joke. But things escalated. One evening, as he sat on his couch, he heard faint tapping on his living room window. His heart raced as he peeked through the curtains. There it was, standing on the other side of the street under the pale glow of the street lamp. It didn't move. The unease crept into his days and his nights. At work, his coworkers joked about his new stalker. They found it funny, but no one else ever saw the figure. Not when Daniel pointed it out. Not even when he showed them the footage from his porch camera. The recordings were static whenever the figure appeared. By then, Daniel's laughter had vanished. The sleepless nights took their toll. Paranoia wrapped around him like a vice. He couldn't shake the feeling that the masked stranger was always there, waiting, watching, feeding on his fear. One night, Daniel decided he'd had enough. The confrontation happened in an empty parking lot, illuminated by the harsh yellow light of a street lamp. The figure was there, as he knew it would be, motionless and eerie. He approached, his heart thundering in his chest. "Who are you?" he demanded. No response. The figure's silence mocked him, daring him to come closer. He did. And then, with trembling hands, he reached out and ripped off the mask. What he saw made his stomach drop. Nothing. No face. No head. Just emptiness where a person should be. The mask hung in midair for a moment before it began to hover toward him. Frozen in terror, Daniel stumbled back as the mask dropped to the ground with a hollow clatter. Shaking, he picked it up and brought it home. Proof, he told himself. Evidence that he wasn't losing his mind. But what he didn't know was that by taking the mask, he had invited something far worse into his life. The first night it appeared in his home, he had locked it in a drawer. Yet by morning, it was sitting on his bedside table. The air around it felt cold, unnaturally so, and a faint melody echoed through his apartment. The tune was unmistakable, the haunting red light, green light theme from Squid Game. Daniel's walls seemed to breathe, shadows twisting into grotesque shapes. He saw them, figures like the masked workers from the show, moving across the walls and corners of his vision. His apartment, once a sanctuary, had become a prison. Desperate for answers, Daniel scoured the internet. He found a series of chilling stories. Urban legends about cursed props from TV shows, objects imbued with dark energy by obsessed fans or practitioners of the occult. One story, in particular, caught his eye. A cursed Squid Game mask tied to a ritual meant to bring the fictional horror to life. Then Daniel discovered something even darker. This wasn't just a cursed mask. It was tied to a satanic cult. The mask had belonged to one of the cult members, a group known for their gruesome rituals and human sacrifices. Victims of these sacrifices were said to be trapped, their souls bound to the objects used in their deaths. The mask, Daniel realized, wasn't just cursed. It was haunted by the spirits of those who had suffered unimaginable torment. That's when the visions began. At night, when Daniel tried to sleep, he would see flashes of blood-stained altars, dimly lit rooms filled with chanting figures, and the screams of the helpless. He felt their desperation, their cries for help. They weren't just haunting him, they were pleading with him. The mask's power intensified. Objects in his apartment moved on their own. Mirrors cracked without reason. He heard whispers, faint but insistent, "Help us. Find them. Stop them." Daniel realized the spirits were guiding him, urging him to uncover the truth about the cult and bring them to justice. But there was a catch. To see clearly, to understand their pain and discover the cult's secrets, he would have to wear the mask. With trembling hands, Daniel put it on. The world around him dissolved, replaced by a nightmarish vision. He was standing in a dark, damp basement, the air thick with the stench of decay. Blood splattered the walls, and a circle of hooded figures surrounded an altar. He could hear their chants, guttural and inhuman, as they raised their hands toward the heavens. The vision shifted. He saw flashes of the cult members' faces, their identities burned into his mind. He saw the places they had met, the tools they used for their rituals, and something else. A location. A cabin deep in the woods, hidden from the world. When Daniel removed the mask, he was drenched in sweat. His heart pounded, but his resolve hardened. He had a mission now, to end the cult and free the spirits bound to the mask. By now, Daniel was desperate. He scoured his mind for someone who could help. That's when he contacted Evelyn. She was a colleague's wife, known for her unconventional profession as a paranormal expert. Evelyn had spent years studying cursed objects, haunted locations, and rituals of the occult. Daniel had met her once at a work gathering and had laughed off her stories of haunted houses and cursed artifacts. Now he wasn't laughing. Together, they devised a plan to confront the cult. Evelyn warned him that wearing the mask came with a price. The longer he wore it, the more it would consume him, blending his soul with the tortured spirits within. Still, Daniel had no choice. With Evelyn's help, he tracked down the cabin from his vision. The place reeked of evil, its windows blackened, its walls covered in occult symbols. As they entered, Daniel felt the weight of the spirits pressing against him, guiding him, urging him forward. In the center of the room stood a crude altar, evidence of recent activity, candles still burning, bloodstains still fresh, confirmed that the cult was active. But the place was empty, the members gone. Daniel put the mask on again. This time, the vision was more intense. He saw the cult's leader, a man with piercing eyes and a cruel smile, standing in a decrepit church. The spirit's whispers grew louder. "He's the one. Stop him." The final confrontation came in the ruins of the church. Daniel, armed with nothing but his determination and the mask, led the police to the scene. The cult leader and his followers were there, chanting, their ritual nearing completion. The spirits surged through Daniel, guiding his every move. The police intervened, arresting the cultists and securing the area. As the leader was taken away, he sneered at Daniel. "You think this is over?" he hissed. But Daniel knew better. The mask's power was fading. As he held it, the spirits let out a collective sigh of relief. The mask, now empty of its haunting presence, crumbled to dust in his hands. The curse was lifted. The cult was no more. In the weeks that followed, Daniel tried to rebuild his life, but the experience had changed him. He couldn't forget the faces of the victims or the weight of their pleas. And sometimes, late at night, he would hear faint whispers of gratitude, a reminder of the lives he had saved and the evil he had vanquished. Some battles leave scars, but some scars tell stories worth remembering.